Think of the venue. Is it all right? You happy? Excellent. Well, we're going to have lots of fun today and hopefully arm you with enough knowledge about LinkedIn that you're going to walk away as gurus. Because I think we're going to put a little poll up soon about currently how you feel about LinkedIn, and then we're going to see afterwards how you feel about LinkedIn. So hopefully our job is to improve upon that. So very warm welcome today. One of the first things, because today this open space environment, the seating arrangements, the amphitheater, it's all about connecting, getting to know one another, and LinkedIn have got an amazing little feature on their app. So open up your phone. You better have a LinkedIn profile and a LinkedIn app. Check it out. Once you open up your profile, you'll be able to see my network at the bottom there. Can you see the little icon? There is Wi-Fi here, up on the board, workshop, username, W17 events, password, W17 Santon. Yeah. Do you want me to pass it? Thanks, Sammy. Good. Okay, so open up your LinkedIn app and you'll see the little networking icon at the bottom of the two people. You click on that, and right at the top of your phone you should see a find nearby. Once you click on that, it should look for everybody in the room that clicks on that, and you can start to connect with those that you might want to, or those that you might not want to avoid, because managing your LinkedIn profile is pretty important. But it's an immediate way of connecting with people around you in a small space, which is what LinkedIn's all about, networking. So, okay, so once you arm yourself with that person you want to connect with, I'm going to take you through the agenda for the day. All right, so pretty simple structure. We're going to start off our keynote addresses with Anthony Brissicado, all the way from New York. And the LinkedIn offices are in the Empire State Building. I mean, can you believe that? They occupy about 4 floors. So Anthony's had to bring it down here in South Africa to 1 floor and only. Anthony's going to be talking to us. Then we're going to follow that with Laura Julia, who's here from our LinkedIn London office. We're going to have a tea break thereafter. Come back in after the tea break, so make sure you don't leave because we're going to have some spot prizes. Anybody like a bit of swag around here? LinkedIn swag possible? There is swag to come, and there'll be spot prizes, so you might have to pay attention to certain key statistics here and there, because there'll be some spot prizes up for grabs. We're going to then take it or bring it back home. Maurice is going to talk about LinkedIn South African data, just to get you armed up on that. And then finally, Sam Parker, also London office, is going to control a little panel session. We're going to have Herman and Kerry and Maurice up to just talk about some issues. So today is all about connecting and trying to arm and educate yourself on LinkedIn. And you know, with education comes questions. So I don't know how, South African crowds aren't the best with putting their hands up and asking questions. Am I right? Huh? Anybody got a question right now? Yeah. Question. What's the question?
No, I just wanted to prove you wrong.
Well, we have luckily loaded up a what is it, Maurice? A channel? What is Slido? Events. Okay, so if you go into slido.com, just do a Google search for Slido, you'll see there's an event code to put in there. Put into the event code LIZA, in other words, LinkedIn South Africa, and there you will see some polls. Maurice is going to put up the first poll question now. Can you get it up? Wrong screen. Should have said. You got it. Okay, so the first question on Slido is how confident you feel about using LinkedIn marketing solutions. There's been 2 people actively involved, thank you, all 2 of you, and it's split at 3 and 4, which means we're scoring 3.5 right now. It's pretty average. So if you wouldn't mind participating in this, there's first of all the poll section, but on the other side of the app, there is questions. So we're going to be feeding in a couple of questions to try and generate questions after each session, but please will you folks also kind of drop a question into that. I think it's fairly easy to navigate. And then in between sessions, because I'm your MC for the day, unfortunately for you, I'll be loading up those questions and asking whoever's speaking at the time. All right, so we're all on track. I've kind of got the basics. Housekeeping, obviously phones on silent if you can. If you need to take that urgent call, you can slip out one of these doors, I think somewhere out there. And you guys know where the toilets are. It's sort of out into open space, right and right. Finally on the agenda, once we finish with the panel session, we're going to wrap up and we're going to have lunch outside. I think it's a hot day here in Gauteng, so come and have a bite with us and network with everybody. All right, so let's get started. Our first speaker, all the way from NYC, New York City, is Anthony Risicato. He's going to be talking to us. Well, Anthony is the head of global channel sales. We report as Turn Left Media, the representatives for LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, just marketing solutions. LinkedIn's complicated. It's got talent solutions and learning. When it comes to marketing, Turn Left are their representatives in sub-Saharan Africa. So we report into London, and London reports into New York, and that's Anthony. Anthony's who we ultimately report into. But what a wonderful guy, and we're very, very privileged to have him in town here. He's not a virgin South African at all. He's been here a number of times. In fact, he's even had surgery in this country, can you believe it? He had an emergency appendicitis operation in Port Elizabeth, so he's got the scar to prove it. And that, he's been cage diving with the sharks, didn't get any scars from that. So I think he's glad to be back, maybe not for those reasons, but he's off to the bush tomorrow in a small light aircraft. Let's hope he makes it there. And but what can I say about Anthony? He's a born and bred New Yorker from the Bronx, all the way from the Bronx. And he started his, he's going to hate this because I did this last time, but I call him the sort of the granddaddy of digital. He's kind of been in the industry since Netscape started, which if anybody can remember that, and those modems that went, he was involved. And he started in '93 and kind of worked his way from Physicians Online into DoubleClick. He spent a number of years at DoubleClick before going on to, I think it was 360i, and then he did some consultancy work and strategic work, and he's been involved in M&As. He is a guru when it comes to tech and media and digital advertising in particular. And he was then lured out of, because I think he'd retired, is that right? And lured out of his Manhattan apartment to come and work back at LinkedIn. And he's got a hell of a task. He has to travel all over the world, Singapore, London, New York, all over the place. The long flight to South Africa didn't even make him shiver, am I correct? Easy, yeah. So also, if you look at Anthony's profile, you can see he's also interested in some great causes. One of them is something called Rocking the Boat, which empowers young people to really get the confidence and get going, that have had hard beginnings, tough backgrounds, and he's very much a strong believer in mentorship. So we try to also take advantage of that trait of his. But what is not on his profile, because LinkedIn always say what is not on your profile, there's a few things actually. First of all, he's an Italian American, he's Sicilian, When I started to unpack all of that, I was thinking about The Godfather, and I was thinking about all sorts of stuff like that, but it turns out that he was actually, his first job was debt collection in NYC, Don't mess with him. So that Sicilian heritage is there, but he's also a carpenter, and before he started his array into digital, he was an English teacher. So he's a very interesting individual. When you open up his profile, the first thing you see is #human. And I think he's got a strong passion for humanity, networking, connecting people, and I think that's what drew him back into LinkedIn because of that powerful elements that are there. But his keynote today is really about humanity, connectivity, networks, and bringing it all together. So let's give him a warm Johannesburg welcome, folks.
I was a little terrified when John started talking about things that were not on my LinkedIn profile, because I've been here all week, and we've had a lot of time together, a lot of dinners, and they've extracted a little too much information from me. They caught me off guard, the South African, the gentility and friendliness, but behind it, he was amassing all of this information to use against me. Good morning. Thank you very much for the warm welcome, and thank all of you for the warm welcome, and thank you for getting up early and getting here and joining us for what I think is a pretty interesting morning of content. And you probably think I'm going to start talking about how great LinkedIn is, and rest assured I'm going to get there. But we're going to start just having a conversation a little bit about us and about humanity. And I will tell you a little bit about me. I've been here before, but it's been 16 long years since I've been back to South Africa. And when I was coming in, I sort of had this flood of memories of all of this. I was a little younger in my career in those days. I actually had hair, pictures to prove it, of climbing Table Mountain, poorly equipped, with very long hair and maybe a bit wider eyes. But the thing that's really interesting about being back on the continent is seeing all the change. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. And if you just go back 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, what's happened on the continent, not only in South Africa, but in all of the countries on the continent, really, it's kind of eye-opening and it's amazing. I don't live in this region. I don't spend a whole lot of time in this region. And then coming here and getting to spend time in Cape Town and now in Johannesburg and talking to a wide group of people, it's extraordinary. It really is extraordinary what's going on here. And so keep going, A, and B, we have a lot more work to do. So I will start with just some gratitude and thank you. I'm happy to be back here. Our partners turn left. I think, I've managed all of our global partners around the world, and that includes our programmatic partners, our content partners, resellers, and our API and technology partners. And I don't think, I'm not supposed to have a favorite, I don't believe. Can I have a favorite? No, it's okay. And some partners are more equal than others, maybe I'll put it that way. And I think the turn left folks, when I sit with them and I spend time understanding their approach to the world, we don't have a lot of other folks in our environment who believe in LinkedIn the way that they do, to adopt our mission and our values and our go-to-market, and just a way of connecting with people kind of in the same way that Turn Left does. Their expertise in what we do and how we do it is fairly extraordinary. I won't say they are the best, because I'm not allowed to say that, but they are extraordinary, and I think maybe a round of applause for getting us all here today. Sammy the shark on your way out, so shake her hand, because she's really done all of this. Okay, so I'm going to talk, as promised, a little bit about us. Maybe not the current us, but maybe our ancestors a bit. Homo sapiens, and now Homo sapiens sapiens, which is who we are, have been responsible for an incredible amount of progress. An incredible amount of not great stuff also, but just an incredible amount of progress. And all of us learned about evolution in school. My schooling was in the 1800s, but the rest of you did more recently. And what we've learned about evolution is kind of fundamentally wrong. And it's important to sort of unpack this a little bit, because I was taught, and I'm sure you were taught, that evolution was this kind of very predictable straight line. And we've all seen the picture of the sort of hunched over person, and maybe the thing that crawled out of the ocean first, but then the hunched over person that finally got up a little more upright, and then sure enough, it's sort of modern humans. And that's just wrong. That isn't what evolution is, and it isn't how we became who we are. In history, all of these groups overlapped with one another. We all competed and collaborated in some cases. They worked together. They started in different areas of the world. It all started here, so it's kind of and I didn't do this on purpose. It's just a presentation I really, really like. It resonates with me. Being on the continent, it kind of has a deeper resonance. But all of these groups were fighting for their future. And it's kind of funny because, Homo sapiens, we had some advantages, but we weren't the biggest, we weren't the strongest, we weren't the smartest. Homo naledi, actually, which is a recent one that's been discovered, actually had these curved thumbs and fingers, which allowed them to climb and swing from trees a lot easier than we could, which I think is kind of a cool thing to have. But they didn't make it. Homo sapiens are the only ones that made it. And when you think about it, what's the reason for that? What is it that we had all of us had that those other groups didn't. And we still maintain some DNA from some of those earlier groups, but for the most part, it was the Homo sapiens that pushed the entire line forward and ended up becoming us. And our closest relatives today, chimpanzees, are only 1% different from us. We are 99% the same. Her and her are almost exactly alike. And if we drew a picture that was 99% alike and we sketched something out, we probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference between us. But in that 1%, there's about 40 million DNA variations, which is kind of an amazing. DNA is complicated, but just 1% of it accounts for 40 million differences between us and our closest relatives. And listen, I love a chimpanzee. Last time I was in South Africa, they actually raided a cabin that I was in and tossed all my tea out the window. I mean, they are clever and they are amazing and they're super strong, but they're not humans. They don't have our abilities. They don't have our superpower. And I'm going to ask you to think about what that superpower is that not only separates us from the chimpanzees, but separates us from all of those other groups. And again, your teaching in evolution was wrong. The most recent science tells us all those folks lived at once, and we won. And we need to ask the question why, because that will help us in the future solve a lot more problems that are bigger than any problems we've ever had in all of history. What's ahead of us is a huge mountain of things to overcome, a lot of progress we need to make. And I know we can do it because we have had a lot of progress. We have solved what seem to be amazingly incurable problems. And I've read, these two books are really great. If you have some free time, and I hope you all do, to download it or grab one, or actually maybe buy a book, which I know is crazy, tough thought. Book, hey, I was an English teacher, as mentioned, so I still have some books. But Factfulness particularly is one that resonated with me. And what it is an accounting of what's true, what we've really done, what's the progress we've made. And it lays out a bunch of statistics that I have to tell you, every page I turned, it made me feel a bit more optimistic about who we are and how we got here and where we're going and the insurmountable problems in our minds that we're facing. But look at child mortality, and not so long. And human history is very long. Child mortality rates in just a couple hundred years, nearly half of our kids died as children from diseases, from accidents, from lack of health care. And now, largely, we're solving that problem. And it's uneven. There are pockets around the world here. There are pockets in my part of the world, in South America and in Asia, where you have higher or lower rates of this. But largely, we're solving this problem. That's kind of amazing. We look at access to electricity, which enables, is a platform for all sorts of other progress. This was largely unavailable for most of all of human history, really, just the last eye blink. But in the last, 100 years, call it, we've largely solved that problem. We still have more work to do. I was actually just reading this morning about a company that is rolling out these portable solar panels all across the continent, which is kind of amazing, to enable a kid to read at night, enable the farmer to get up earlier, enable someone to cook dinner and a little bit later so they don't have to be trapped by the rotation of the sun. The literacy rate around the world, right? You think of a platform for progress, you think of how we can really make a change. This, frankly, for me, started everything. The first day I picked up a book was the first day that I felt like I was moving myself forward. And this literacy rate, we're at 86% globally. I mean, that's astounding. 86% of people are literate in the world. Internet access, something a bit more recent. As John mentioned, I started early. As in '93, I started working in the technology field. Seems like an awful long time ago. And my first trip to Africa 16 years ago, finding information and communicating was a heck of a lot harder. I had a two-way pager, which was kind of like amazing at the time. I could get a message and then type back a couple of words, which was working on some radio thing. I don't even know how it works. But today, internet access is over 50%, and that curve, that slope of that is just climbing and climbing and climbing. And think about all those other things, access to electricity and literacy and how that feeds into this. We're solving amazing intractable and incurable problems. And then this last one that I'll put up here from a statistics standpoint. I've struggled with what the relevancy is of this, but it made me chuckle when I read it. Guitars per capita, and I kept having this vision of 11,000 people per million all playing guitars, and just sort of what that would sound like. And I think it would make John Lennon very happy, and it probably make the rest of us quite happy. So when we think about who we are and where we've come from and the challenges you have in your part of the world, whether it's your town, your country, your continent, whether it's mine, we can solve these problems because humans are special. We have a superpower. I haven't told you what it is yet. It's what I think it is yet. Why don't you keep thinking about it? But we are different. And over time, we've been able to use that superpower, sometimes on purpose and mostly for good. We've had some sort of, not great periods. But we've built empires. We've solved all kinds of scientific challenges. We've moved the world forward with this innovative business that then creates the investment capital that can solve more problems. Business isn't just for making money. Business is for making investments in things that matter in the long term. And so humans have done all of this. And I have a simple equation. My folks, and Sam here will probably roll his eyes, I say this quite often. Simple equation you want to keep in your professional life, maybe your personal life too. That excellence equals success over time, right? That is just, like I have that emblazoned at home in my house in Manhattan, because it's something to remember. The thing I do today, maybe I'll give a decent talk today, great, awesome, let's all get a participation trophy. But my job is to do this at scale over time and to be excellent over time. And humans have been able to do that. And in each one of these huge stages, these giant leaps forward, we've had these images of people who have driven us forward, right? And you can take any other categories. It might be an emperor, it might be a great scientist, it might be a Mandela, it might be a Bill Gates, it might be a Shirley Jackson, it might be the Congolese folks who just won a Nobel Peace Prize, or the third woman ever to win a Nobel Peace Prize. It just happened in physics. And this idea of these folks who push us forward, these visionaries, is wrong. Just like our view of evolution is wrong. We're mistaken. We want to believe the simple things, but the simple thing is not right here. This great man theory, great woman theory that has been prevalent in most of our history, it's not quite accurate. It's easy. It's great to stamp someone's face up there and it's like, oh my God, Da Vinci, that was a great person. Or Emily Dickinson changed literature forever. But that concept of that person being somehow special on their own and driving us all forward is incorrect. Because behind every one of these great initiatives, behind every great man and behind every great woman, there's these structures. There are these networks. There's this collaboration. There are these platforms. And whether you are Gandhi or Madame Curie or Bill Gates or Da Vinci, you had a group around you that either you built on top of and you stood on some shoulders, and God knows we've all stood on someone's shoulders at some point. Most of our success is not ours alone, and it's really important to remember that. And these networks, as we start to sort of explore them a bit more, are complicated, right? They are meant to drive us to collaborate. That's what those structures are really for. And it's the only superpower. And you look at scientists, philosophers, great thinkers of our time. This is the thing that separates us. This is the 1% difference. Our ability to all get together and work on something that's way bigger than us, way bigger than this group. And then when we meet a challenge, to just change our direction. Lots of other organisms in the world collaborate. Lots of them. You think of ants, you think of bees, you think of fungus, you think of there's trees actually that collaborate with one another and they help feed each other, which is kind of amazing. I don't understand, but it's true. They don't have that flexible ability. They don't have that ability to think beyond themselves and say, hey, we're going to do something, it's good for us, but it's also good for these other folks that we've never met before. That is uniquely human and is what allowed us to dominate in mostly good ways, in some bad ways, dominate the planet and dominate the ecosystem. Our head of product, Tomer Cohen, who's an Israeli, he's a big fan of Yuval, and he has a really interesting quote about the difference between us and chimpanzees. And there's a lot of versions of this. You talk about, with enough monkeys and typewriters and chimpanzees, you can create Shakespeare. And that's really not true. What you get is madness if you put 100,000 chimpanzees in Yankee Stadium, which I can actually see from my house, and I can hear the organ in the summer, which is great. I'm a Yankees fan. But if you put 100,000 humans in there, there'll be some challenges. There'll probably be some, take sides at some point. It's kind of what we do. But in the end, we're going to create some great things in there. The chimpanzees are going to be way more entertaining, but they're not going to create anything of lasting value. And they will be hysterical to see them running around Yankee Stadium. Maybe that's something we can work on together. But our unique ability to collaborate, think flexibly, change our direction, know what's good for you, might be good for you, and might be good for this group, and then be able to invest in that in a meaningful way, that's what allowed us to solve all of these amazing intractable problems. Like if you told someone, 100 years ago that the literacy rate would be where it is today, they would have laughed at you. And 500 years ago, it probably would have been just forbidden, flat out. And books were not really allowed that broadly for most of our history. So we come back to this idea of networks and platforms and collaboration. I'd like to spend a little time talking about Marie Curie, Madame Curie. And you may or may not know her history. She's a pretty remarkable woman from the early 1900s. And she was responsible for the theory of radioactivity, amongst other things. And other scientists had noticed radioactivity, that people have suffered ill consequences from radioactivity. But Marie Curie really studied it and created a whole science around it and was responsible for the foundational technical work that was done in medicine. So X-rays, portable X-ray machines, the ability to understand isotopes, all of that was done by Marie Curie. And Madame Curie, again, 1900s, the first woman to win a Nobel Peace Prize, right? I can't even imagine how heroic that must have been in that time. And then she's also the first and only woman to win 2 Nobel Peace Prizes, which I think is even more heroic. And she won them in 2 different disciplines, physics and chemistry. So, when we're feeling kind of smart about something, just take a moment, all right? Just take a deep breath, and we all got nothing. Maybe a couple of you do. I know I got nothing compared to Marie Curie. And so we hold her up as just this incredible exemplar of brilliance and vision, and dedication and focus. And I can't imagine her life was that easy, and I'm sure she was told no a whole lot. But you know what? She didn't do this alone, right? She had a lot of help. She had a platform and collaborators and partners and inspiration and muses. She had a husband, Pierre, who also won his own Nobel Peace Prize. She had a daughter, Irene, who also won her own Nobel Peace Prize. My family, not quite this We talked about my start in business, and I might have been clever around debt collection, but I don't know. And those folks, as brilliant as they were individually, also had a network. They had people they could tap into and ask advice and get some coaching from and get some mentorship from. Research assistants. And the Curie family overall, of which Marie was the center of, they won 5 Nobels in total, which it's just an enormous, there's no other group of people who are even close to this. And so yeah, they were special, but they were really special together. And I'm sure Marie would have done great things without this network around her, but she did extraordinary things with this network. And that's really the point that I'm trying to make here. Humans are special because of this superpower. Our ability to activate these nodes, these bright, bright lights, kind of obviates the great man theory, right? That's bull. That is just an easy shorthand written by folks who wanted an easy thing to say. There is no great man theory. There's no great woman theory. There's a great human theory. There's a great collaboration theory. There's a way for us to activate each other. And that's what we have to pay attention to and invest our time in. And as I mentioned earlier, every one of these stages, which were amazing, every one of them just enormous leaps forward. Guess what that really looks like? That really looks like a whole lot of other folks enabling these giant leaps forward. And it's hard to sometimes draw the lines between these things. And, in an earlier slide, we had, Frida Kahlo and Da Vinci, right? It's just hard to see that connection. We had Bill Gates, and again, who owns LinkedIn and is absolutely brilliant, but most people don't know who Ed Roberts is. Who knows who Ed Roberts is? Anyone? Anyone? Got one, maybe? Nobody. Ed Roberts gave Bill Gates and Paul Allen their big break. Ed built the first personal computer that Bill and Paul begged to run their software on. And we don't even know who this guy is. And that was the real brilliance. Without that, Bill Gates and Paul Allen are sort of, chuffing away somewhere, trying to figure out what to do with this thing, but it was really the big break they got by networking, collaboration, and somebody named Ed Roberts, who's kind of lost to history largely, but not to Bill Gates, right? He will be the first one to credit Ed as the one who gave him the start. So again, networks, activating, knowing who you're engaging with, choosing and investing the people you are engaging with, being thoughtful about who I'm going to reach out to for mentorship and coaching. That's really what we're great at. That's really what you're all great at. And it's really kind of what LinkedIn can enable. It is a unique platform. I am not a LinkedIn lifer. I haven't worked at the company for very long. But I was a very early adopter. I joined LinkedIn in 1993. I was one of the first 75,000 people to sign on to LinkedIn. I wasn't quite sure what it was at the time. And I get endless grief about this within the company because they always ask, has anyone signed up in LinkedIn when it was founded? I'm like, yeah, me. It's like I'm the only one who raises my hand, no matter what group we're in. But it's a remarkable and unique platform. I'm not a huge social media person. I'm not huge Facebook. My Twitter feed's a little crazy, but that aside. LinkedIn really resonates with me because I get so much out of it. I get mentorship, I get coaching, I get ideas, I get a new way to look at things, at business problems, and connect with people. I'm not naturally a networker. It's hard for me. LinkedIn makes it easy for me. We have a scale that's huge, 575 million folks. When I was putting this presentation together, actually one of our product marketing folks walked by and like, I put 560 on the slide. And he's like, no, I'm sorry, that's 575 now. So it just is growing rather quickly. And that's all great, and that's lovely, and you're gonna see this slide and all of our financial reports and all of that, but it's a little hard to engage with those numbers. And so I'd like to sort of drop it down a little bit and think about numbers in a little different way. On average, each of you have 120 connections on LinkedIn. Some of us have a lot more, some of us have less, but on average, globally, 120 people you have in your network to be inspired by, to be connected with, to find your next great achievement to collaborate with. Just by the time this started, about 2,500 people have signed up for LinkedIn. It is an enormous wave of forward progress and momentum. And in terms of the feed updates, and everyone I know everyone has got some perspective on the feed and how it should be ordered. I have no input on that, so please, it's not me, it's not my job. I will gladly take it back, but I'm not the one guiding the feed. That feed is learning from you and trying to give you what you need to make even more connections, to learn even more about what's going on based upon the things you have raised your hand and said, I'm interested in. So engage in that. The more you do that, the more you post, the more you connect with people, the better this all works for you. It's a tool, it's a platform for you to connect and collaborate with. So these nodes, these bright lights, our ability to connect with one another, our superpower of thinking flexibly and collaboratively, it's up to us to really activate that. And I want to give you a great example of someone from the continent, from Nigeria, Dr. Olla Brown. Does anyone know Dr. Olla Brown in the room? Anyone? A couple? Thank you. I learned about her and was super inspired by her story. She is a doctor and became a helicopter pilot. And she had kind of a tragic experience. She lost a younger sister who was traveling through Nigeria on holiday in a fairly remote place, and her sister passed away. And she lost her sister because there was no ready access to healthcare, right? And that's a common problem across some of these vast areas. And so Dr. Brown said, I want to solve that problem, right? This hit me so hard, I'm going to try and solve that problem. And she tried for a little while, and it was really hard because one person can't solve that problem. And so she activated a network of people, and they formed a company, and it's called Flying Doctors Nigeria. And I encourage you to read about it. She's all over LinkedIn. She's amazing. And what they did was build a fleet of helicopters and planes that fly doctors into these remote areas, and they sort of, it's kind of like a shuttle service of physicians sort of coming in and out, and they have emergency service as well, but also regular health care. And Dr. Brown, the only way that she could have done this, and she's the first one to say this, and she says it all the time, she does a lot of interviews, is by activating a network. By posting on LinkedIn and getting like-minded folks to say, how can we do this? She wasn't going to go and get a fleet of airplanes. She didn't know how to do that, but other people in her network did. And as she was posting and getting more connections and collaborating with more people, she had an even bigger idea. And this is the collaboration at scale. She said, I want to change healthcare in Nigeria. That seems like, I mean, maybe I'm gonna bite off a little smaller challenge. I want you to save some people out in the, in the bush first. But she's like, no, we're gonna go and do it. And so what she did was get an even wider group of people and influencers on LinkedIn and post even more and start to bring in more content. And they ended up actually having an influence on Nigeria's healthcare system. They passed some legislation last year that allowed them to have even better access to healthcare, and they got some grades for their types of services, so more services like that could grow from an advantage standpoint. That's all one person who activated a network to solve a huge problem that she could not have solved whatsoever on her own. And in the meantime, in just over a year and a half, she picked up about 500,000 followers on LinkedIn. I'm a pretty heavy LinkedIn user. That's an enormous number of people to get to follow you. It just goes to show you we can do this. We can collaborate at scale and network and make big changes, but you have to do it. You got to lean in. You got to take some responsibility for this and say, I am going to push this forward, and it can happen. This network is vibrant. And it's local, right? There's, I was doing a little research, and I hadn't been back here for a while, so I wanted to kind of learn what was going on. This data kind of blew me away, to get out of the way of it. These are the tech hubs around the continent. Now, listen, you can imagine that South Africa, does quite well. It has this sort of established economy against media and digital. But look at the rest of these countries. I mean, no one could have said this 10 years ago. You look at the Nairobis and the Nigerias and the Kenyas and the Ghanas and the Ivory Coast. I mean, this is amazing. I mean, this is like one of the most inspiring set of data I've seen, where people coming together and creating shared workspaces, places like this, to come together and solve big problems, to collaborate and work flexibly. Right? This is your community at work right here, lighting up the entire continent of Africa with progress. And ultimately, because we can't solve any really important problems ourselves, we've got to take this on board, right? We are in this together. We have to work together to collaborate. And I have to do it too. I mean, this doesn't come naturally all the time. We are iconoclasts in our own minds. And so I have a network of folks that I have to activate and work on regularly. And we were just talking about, we've got some problems that I'm working on that require global cooperation, and they're hard. And turn left, and Sam Parker, who's here, is going to speak later. There's some things we're trying to solve in this region that have global implications, and we've got to work together to do it. I've got to light up my network in a meaningful way, far-flung and nearby. And when I do that, I'm able to then provide solutions to our partners around the world, who then service the clients that you deal with on a regular basis, the brands that you're trying to help solve problems. And these are important problems too. Just because we're not curing cancer doesn't mean we shouldn't have the same level of effort against it. Let's get on with collaborating and working together, and we can do this stuff. And then once we get these partners and these brands working, we start to now light up enormous sort of activity and evolution in our digital business, in our marketing business, and how people interact with our brands overall. This, to me, is the story of humanity, lighting up our individual networks that then coalesce and come together to solve really big, intractable problems. If you're not excited by that, it's like you're not excited about being innately human. That is the difference between us and every other creature on this planet. And with that said, I am super thrilled to be in this with you, to be down here again, sharing this with you, and thank you very much for your time this morning.
Wow, you guys enjoy that? That was inspiring. I had the opportunity of listening to that on Tuesday, and it gets better and better, by the way. Fantastic, and thanks again. I think it puts LinkedIn's mission in place, and maybe just a question to ask you, and I hope you guys are starting to throw the questions onto Slido. I haven't checked yet. Morris, have you checked? Okay, my question to you is, there are a lot of networks out there, and we can see the power of networks at play when you talk about particularly Marie Curie and other examples. But is there a difference in those networks out there? I mean, when we talk about connecting and connectivity, are there different roles for them? How would you define LinkedIn's role versus, say, Facebook's role in connectivity? If I can ask you that question.
It's a great question, and frankly an important one. And I know I can probably stand up here and shill for LinkedIn all day. That's amazing. It's my job, and I get that. But the honest and human answer to that is that these are all tools, and you've got to use them differently. I'm a gardener. That's what I like to do in my free time. I like to garden, and I've got a whole bunch of different tools, and I use different things for different outcomes. And LinkedIn's mission of creating globally economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce, to take that on board. That's like a meaningful thing for us. We do stuff that isn't always good for LinkedIn because we want to service that mission. And the stuff you do on Facebook, awesome. Stuff you do on Pinterest and on Instagram and on Twitter. The Twitter stuff gets a little crazy, but it's a little out of hand on occasion. It's all great, and those are tools. But when you want to really invest in your networks and to build something bigger, I don't find any other place like LinkedIn. I do search. I try and find other outlets for this, but LinkedIn is really meant for your professional development and to build your networking platforms and collaborate. So use it as such and understand what it's for. We've been blessed on LinkedIn. We're conservative by nature, so we're never on the bleeding edge of some new stuff. Keeps us out of trouble, frankly, which I think is a good thing. And it now allows us to go deeper on some of these features and mechanisms for collaborating and networking. And I know we don't always move as fast as we would like, but sometimes the best tools take time to roll out.
Thanks. I think you said you got into LinkedIn in '93. That's not possible, is it? Or is it?
Really? It is possible, yeah.
I thought it started in 2003. Ooh, epic fail.
My first job was writing software manuals. Again, I was an English teacher, and I thought I was going to be a writer, and that clearly didn't work out. My first job was writing software manuals for computer programs, how to use introduction to Microsoft Word 1.0, PowerPoint 2.0. Like, these were early days, but it was the early technology revolution, which I was lucky enough to sort of get swept up along with, mostly because I couldn't feed myself being an English teacher, which is a whole other problem that we also need to solve. So.
Okay. Well, are there any questions? I see nothing on Slido yet, but please, folks, we've got him only for the morning, I think, so please access Anthony and ask him any questions you want. He's got the answers there. I hope you enjoyed that present so far. Thank you, Anthony. All right, moving on. Well, our next speaker, with a name like Laura Ferrari, Julio, there's got to be something in there that's a little bit passionate and powerful. Well, did you know that when she starts speaking, what sort of accent is that? What is going on? You're from the London office? That doesn't sound like British, does it? So she's a Brazilian by nature, and she moved to London. When did you get to London?
15 years ago. So I'm actually a Londoner now. I call myself that.
Ah, okay. Laura's been with LinkedIn for almost 4 years now. She has got a task on her hands. She has to roll out educating clients on LinkedIn. She's going to be unpacking the roadmap today of 2018 and 2019, bits and pieces, some stuff that she might not be allowed to. We'll just have to get Anthony to close his ears and that sort of thing, talk about some new products. And she's a great person to really get to grips with the products available on LinkedIn. She's been working there for some years, so her job is to handle UK agencies and then partners like ourselves, arm us with the technology and information that we need that we can share with you folks. Today she's going to talk about the roadmap, but she also comes from a background, she's worked for Microsoft, she's worked for Skype, she's got a lot of credit out there. What's not on her profile there? Aha! She's just started drumming, can you believe it? So she's going to pull out the drums for us and do a drum session today. So again, a warm welcome for Laura to come and talk to us today.
I usually struggle with clickers, so look away whilst I just give myself a little lessons. Yeah, let's go for it. Well, thank you for having me. It is my first time in South Africa, and for those who have had a chat earlier, you can tell that I'm very excited, but sad, because I'll be leaving today, back to London. I'll be back. Hopefully, turn left, medium go, run an Indaba, annual Indaba, so which means I can continue to come back. I'll be talking to you about some product highlights, things that we have launched recently that you can take advantage of, and things that we will be launching next year. So you can start thinking on how to communicate with your clients or your business partners. Usually the backdrop has got the Golden Gate, so San Francisco, this is where our engineers, the brain of the business, sit and live. But today I brought Stellenbosch, which is about 14 hours drive from here. My presentation is not going to take that long, just to reassure you. And I hope you would fly, right? I didn't get a chance to explore, but I did explore Table Mountain and a few other things, so I'm very privileged and happy to be here. So again, gratitude, same thing as Anthony. Thanks for welcoming me. But before we take you on this journey, I would love to know who is joining me. So a quick question to you guys. Who is here from a media or creative agency? Show of hands. Excellent. Who is here from a marketer, so an advertiser, running your own department or working? Excellent. Who is here from a competitor? That's fine. Journalists? Anyhow, so thank you for joining me today in this journey. And just a show of hands again, who has had their profile since 1993? 2002, the official founding date. 2008, let's jump ahead. Excellent. Those who are putting your hands up, 2008, what was the primary objective of having the LinkedIn account? Just shout out.
Finding a job.
Job. CV, yeah. We were a glorified CV library, so a digital CV library. And I had a chat to a few of you before, and you were right in saying that you would create your profile, update your profile, your working profile network, maybe add a few people that you know or you'd like to do business with, but that was about it. You would jump off the platform. There was no reason for you to engage with it. Now, if we fast forward to 2018, so present time, it's a very different story. So the platform has changed completely, drastically. So the first thing you will notice is the actual news feed. That's the centerpiece of the platform. In my view, I had a couple of days ago the first post by Ian Brenner. He's an influencer. He is very opinionated, mostly about American world politics. But in this case, he had a picture of Theresa May, who's also visited South Africa a couple of months ago, doing a little dance. She loves her dance moves. So usually the first post, it tends to be people that you follow, your peers, your colleagues, or the hashtags that you're interested in. And then after that, usually second will be promoted. So a lot of the efforts that we together in the room carry out on the platform. But other things that have been happening, some of you noticed and talked about earlier when we were having a little coffee. We've got hashtags. And there's a hashtag for today's event, bless you. Hashtag Indaba 2018. Leandre, Carrie, I've noticed maybe quite a few people already using the hashtag, so good work, guys. Please feel free to post it. And then if you go onto the search and you look for it, you see all of the pictures, the comments, the engagement from all of us in the room for this event that we are experiencing together. Beyond hashtag, for things that you're interested in hearing from on your newsfeed, we have groups. So groups previously lived separately in a whole new environment, had its own app. So I own groups, I'm part of groups, and I found that quite time-consuming to switch from apps to apps, whereas now groups live on the main app, and I find that's a brilliant way for us to belong and participate in the communities that we choose to. So anyone using groups already or participate? Yes? Excellent. Some businesses have already also taken advantage of it. So I work with pharmaceutical clients. They have very sort of private information that they could only share in private spaces. Group worked really well for them to do that. And with marketing solutions, they attracted new demographics, cardiologists, etc., onto that particular group. And finally, things that people are talking about. So kind of like listening tools and what content are trending on the platform. So this is on the platform enough because we also employed a lot of editorial folks to help us curate relevant stuff, to keep us engaged. We need our feed to be personalized to our needs, right? So this is the feed. And with that, of course, we see a change in behavior. So there's now more posts and content than jobs, about 15 times or so. And year on year, there's 50% increased engaged feed, means that people really stay on the feed and they scroll through. And they also engage with it, comment, like, share, etc. So we've doubled year on year. That's global figures, and we see that reflected locally as well. We heard a lot from Anthony around connectivity, the importance of it. But for you, the more tangible aspects of LinkedIn as a marketer or media creative agency is to engage with those professionals and be effective at doing so, right? And there's 3 ways you can do that. So firstly, targeting. So the 575 million members, almost 7 million, I think Marius is going to break the news, unofficial, official, maybe throw a party, in South Africa. So that's a huge milestone for us. But additionally, you can bring your clients' data to the platform, matched audiences. I spoke to a few agencies yesterday who are already leveraging account-based marketing, etc. So this is a great way for you to find your clients, your audiences, and match them on LinkedIn. But how can you do that? How can you convey a message? Well, there's different formats, but you need to understand what you're trying to achieve with any platform. And it's our job, agency turn left media, to understand what the client challenges are, to then put forward the right product or the right format that our members should be engaging with. But we are in business, we need to generate money. So proving return on investment. Our platform is making a lot of adjustments because we understand that more often than not, marketing starts to work closer to sales, marketeers start reporting to revenue officers, and they need to understand their business and whether their marketing budgets are actually bringing revenue back into the business, right? I think most of you would agree. So in order for me to showcase what LinkedIn has done in those 3 different facets, I'll be taking us back in time. So looking at the key releases that have taken place over the 12 to 14 months. Some of you will be already familiar with such releases. Perhaps it'll be news to some of you. And you can act on stuff that I'm going to talk about now. So they're actually out and available to you guys. Targeting. So let's start with audiences. Website demographics. Show of hands who have heard of website demographics or using the LinkedIn Insights tag or the LinkedIn Pixel, so many names. There's a few hands, excellent. Perfect. This is a key takeaway. If there's one thing for you to take away today, it'll be this. It's free of charge. You need to implement the LinkedIn Insights tag. The same way that most of you will be already working with Google Analytics, you have their tag implemented, and Google Analytics helps you understand audiences' behavior. What are they doing on the web? What happens when they land on their site? Dwell time, conversions, etc. Now you can use LinkedIn's data, free of charge, to understanding who is visiting your site. So it's not tied into any campaign, it's actually related to your site. So all of the efforts, all of the traffic coming from your site, who are they? Job titles, function, which departments they work for, industries, company size, there's about 8 facets. So this is really important if you want to plan for your future activities, welcome. But also for you as a business to understand whether the content on your site is relevant and generating efficiencies. So this is one user case. It's sort of an anecdotal example because I actually haven't got it approved as a case study. But it's a telco client that I work with in the UK. A couple of years ago, they were part of the very early stage of the beta phase. And they decided to use the Insights tag to help them go through a process that they were going through as a business anyway to restructure their site. They implemented the tag and they understood that different audiences were consuming different contents. Before that, marketing would work with product. Any product releases will just slot into the site. It's nice and easy. Just go into this kind of pile up. Whereas from implementing the tag, they understood that small businesses and private sector had very different interests in content consumption. So this really helped them understand, and took them a while, but a few months later they have relaunched the .co.uk domain with a whole new layout, which is much more audience-led versus product-looking feel. So this is one way for marketers in the room or agencies to consult on clients' businesses to implement and start using it. Is anyone going to start using it? Implement it? Excellent. If you need more information, Turn Left can help you guys understand how to get started.
What can help?
Turn Left Media, the guys can help. Video. So Cisco has called out that video consumption is huge, 80% of web traffic by 2021, which is around the corner really. We'll be having an Indaba then and talking about it. But it's not only from an advertising standpoint, but human content consumption. You know, on-the-go video, small bite sizes, or even the likes of Netflix's. YouTube is really top of mind of a lot of millennials, especially in the UK. I'm sure in South Africa will be similar. So that's a great format for you as marketers and agencies to think about, especially because I'm sure you're already using it with other platforms. So yeah, so LinkedIn launched it in April. Video ads, native video ads. And because we launched in April, I brought to you just a few best practices. I'm sure some of you are already using it, the native format. Just again, show of hands. So I can see a few people in the room that already experimented with it. And some of these might resonate with you then. So firstly, measure what matters. LinkedIn measures things differently to the other platforms, so just be aware of that. What is a view for us versus other platforms? Is it 50%, 2 seconds? I know the other platforms might be 3 seconds. Slightly different behaviors. So just be aware of that so you can consult your clients or put in your marketing plans what your metrics of success before you even go live. And also video is very versatile. You can go out with a brand campaign, or you can even integrate a lead form to be more conversion and lead focused with the same format. Something else that we recommend clients to do is think like a silent move director. And the reason being that internal data tells us that 80% of users don't unmute their videos on LinkedIn. So just for those who don't know, we autoplay on mute to adhere to industry standards. So Google Chrome, Explorer, any videos that come with sound, they're blocked. So of course, our videos are also on mute. And people, because they're on the go, or if they're in their offices, on their desktop, because it's allowed, They don't need to unmute. They can multitask and see the video with the subtitles, just as this great video and many others from the World Economic Forum. Highly recommend you should follow those guys. They're very inspirational. Finally, well, thirdly, length. I am sure a lot of you have asked the question to turn left to yourselves, how long should our videos be? Well, advertising is not a precise science. You need to be agile at optimizing. The agile methodology that works well for product management also works well for marketing. You need to test. So I brought two very different clients to the room, so maybe one or the other might resonate with you. Firstly, Audi. So Audi, automotive, more B2C, high consideration. They do a lot of it with us, and so do other auto clients. And they were part of our beta phase, and they decided to do a very similar thing as other clients, that let's use our budgets, be part of the beta, but test and learn, so that any future campaigns, we will have those learnings established. And they run a variety of lengths. So they tested 12 seconds, 30 seconds, over a minute long. And their actual consolidated completion rate on LinkedIn for that beta was 20%. For those of you who manage video on LinkedIn and other platforms, that's quite healthy, you would say, completion rate, especially if you're looking at an array of lengths. But of course, as they dig deeper on the data, they understood that the 6, 12, 30 seconds video were much higher completion rates. And that's, going forward, they will most likely stick to that. Also because Audi sells itself, and they are showing the interior of a car. How long do you need to do that? And it's just more of a sneak peek, so people, ooh, I want to see more. In terms of audiences, they were targeting show fairs, using skills and groups, and they were targeting senior audiences on the platform, because it is a kind of high-end, technology-filled car vehicle. Microsoft, on the other hand, they sell complex stuff. A lot of it's SaaS, cloud. This is some of the folks in the room that work with this client. This particular case is also a case study available to all of you guys publicly. Canada. So they, of course, being Microsoft, we're part of it. They were #1 on the pilot. And they were testing, again, length to promote some of their events. But because their events are about more complex stuff, for them, the video length that they wanted, and they didn't care about completion rate, they wanted engagement, and they wanted people to engage with the video and learn and find out more and register to the event. So the lengths were over a minute to 2 minutes. They didn't care about the 12 seconds or the testing for being short and sweet. Some people say that 6 seconds is the human attention lately, but Microsoft knows that they need longer than that. So for your business, we can only recommend that you test, that you work with the partners of choice that you have, and really do an agile, organized A/B testing for anything that we do, really. But what else is coming on the video front? We launched, now we are making improvements. So we launched recently, some of you might have noticed, caption uploads. So we talked about the importance of subtitles. Now you have got the functionality in Campaign Manager, or if you're posting organically, to upload the caption that you create. But what else is coming? More video ad metrics. So the agents in the rooms that report to their clients are probably happy about it. We'll be able to report on how many people muted their videos. There's a few other metrics that will be launched by end of the year, hopefully, to help you have more data to analyze. And then video campaign duplication. Again, Campaign Manager users, show of hands, or whoop whoop. Yes, this is a pain point, and I use Campaign Manager, and I'm loving the fact you'll be able to duplicate your campaigns. Edit stuff, that's coming next year. The whole Campaign Manager is being restructured as of next year. We're very excited about it. I was speaking to some of you in the room who have already experienced it, and are also excited to see that it's becoming much more sort of objective-based and allowing you to do things that you can't nowadays. And finally, Sponsor Square. Currently, horizontal, we are allowing for Square videos to come on board next year. Another one on delivering value, carousel ads. So show of hands who is using carousel ads on LinkedIn. Who is using carousel ads on all the platforms? So now you guys will be bringing your carousel ads to LinkedIn, hopefully. So best practice, you need around 3 to 4 cards. That's when we saw the sweet spot from engagement standpoint. They're much higher click-through rates as any static format, and that's because it's much more engaging. There's a lot more you can do. And on the screen, I talk about B2B treats, but actually, we have had a lot of B2C and B2C high consideration clients. I saw Purina. I don't know if you guys know Purina, but they make ration for cats and dogs, and they were advertising on LinkedIn. Carousel ads worked really well for them. But also automotive, if you wanted to show the interior of a car, etc. Hugo Boss did a whole collection. So it does work for B2C. We are changing thanks to the format and thanks to the way people engage with the platform. So those are just some ways you can use it on LinkedIn. Nothing different to other platforms, but in this case we have a cotton brand talking about wearing it, the science behind the cotton, showcasing different offerings, or again, deep dive into one single solution. And each card can take you to a different login page, and we are also integrated with lead generation forms. So maybe if you just want to collect information, first-party data from LinkedIn, you want to test carousel ads, you can have a lead form. You can only have one for all of your cards, but it's a great way for you to acquire data. And finally, demonstrating ROI. Third-party impression tracking, double-click. So to make it easier for all of you who manage, I can see some faces, you manage all of your activities most likely using double-click, apologies, Google Ad Manager. They have rebranded. I keep forgetting. I think those who have been in the industry for a while, double-click will live forever. Anthony knows that. It was 1993. You did work for double-click.
1893.
Yes. He was one of the first influencers for those guys, yeah. So we're bringing impression tracking to allow you to track things in one place. And so Google will be one of the partners, but we're also considering others to come and integrate with us. For video, both viewability. Spoke to some of you earlier, you were asking about it. It is coming later this year. We're actually very close to getting there. Right, we looked back, hopefully kind of gave you some ideas of what's been happening over the past 18 months or so. We released more features and products than ever before. So hence why you've seen so many changes on the platform. But what's to come in our road to Stellenbosch, the 14 hours journey? There's a lot more to come, and I hope these will excite you. Perhaps not as much as Anthony's talk excited you. I love that talk. But yes, it's more tangible stuff for you to think about in future. Targeting, always starting with audience first. Lookalike targeting, yes. Very similar to other platforms, what they're doing without naming names. But every time that I talk about lookalike audience, one question comes up. How does it differ from audience expansion? Yeah. That's my only South African word that I can say. So yes, it does differ. So audience expansion, we launched last year, is actually automatically checked on the platform. And it does sort of work in a similar way. It looks similar audiences, the one that you try to target. But if you want to be precise, I always recommend clients to take it off. So if I'm after just social media managers, I will by default, leaving that on, reach out to brand managers, marketing managers, and a whole array of similarities. So just be aware of that. If you're running account-based marketing, always turn it off. The lookalike modeling is based on matched audiences. Is anyone aware of the matched audiences capabilities of LinkedIn? Right, so there's 3 ways you can match your audience to our members. Firstly, retargeting. Nothing new. The ability to retarget people that go on your site back on LinkedIn, cookie-based. Secondly, account-based marketing. So one of the ways to deliver account-based marketing, shall I say, for you to upload, let's say, a list of companies that you want to do business with, or that you already do business with, and you might want to exclude them from your marketing initiatives. You can upload them on LinkedIn, and you can match them against LinkedIn company pages. We talked about having 26 million. We don't take a list as long as 26 million. I think 30,000 is the largest. But yes, you can match, you can find them, and you can start doing layer of targeting to communicate to the right people in those companies. So this is becoming much more relevant as we talk about marketing, sales alignment. And then thirdly, email addresses. So you guys will have your own CRMs, either something that you built yourselves, or you're working with one of our partners or the existing partner ecosystem out there, and you can then integrate to LinkedIn and you can target people that way. Email addresses, that works really well because of data privacy, but you can also upload if you use to work on more of a manual approach. And what's the difference? Back to the question, how does it differ to audience expansion? So the lookalike audience will be, let's say you upload a list of companies that you're doing business with because you want to find lookalike companies or audiences. The system will create those audiences, and on top of that, you can add levels of demographics. So the lookalike audiences, you also want to target only functional IT, engineering, and operations. You can add that to your audience. And then you can report on it. Audience expansion you can't report. It's part of the consolidated data that you get, the demographics that you get currently on the platform as part of the audience that you select in the first place. With lookalike, it will have its own reporting. So that's a great way for you to understand whether the lookalike audiences are actually audiences that are converting and generating value to your business. So we're very excited about it. In places that I visited, account-based marketing or sales and marketing is becoming a hot topic. And from speaking to a few guys in here as well today, they're saying the same thing. So we are aligned on this. And finally, we're targeting by ad engagement. So the first baby steps to sequential messaging. Karen, let's say Leandra watched the video on LinkedIn and you actually want to reach the same audience that engaged with the video, but with an email, because you have a different message for them to convert on. These are the sort of things that we're going to be testing and launching next year. So just stay tuned, and that shall come. Delivering value, and I've got 3 more to come, guys, bear with me. Company pages. Just a show of hands, a lot of people in the room, I would love to ask each one of you, but let's use the hands. Who manages a company page on LinkedIn? Right, so this would be very beneficial for you. But even if you don't, and you work with a client that has a company page, that all clients do, if they do marketing with us, then you have access to a lot more insights than you ever had. So firstly, the ability to join conversations that matter the most. Mobile access to the company page. Yes, I would hope that, yes, mobile. Africa is a mobile-first continent. I think, yes, having access to anything that you can do on the go and make you efficient, mobility is huge, of huge importance to the way we operate as a business anyway. So yeah, the ability for you to make changes, post, edit, etc. on the go. Hashtags, we talked about the importance of hashtag. We still don't target, we don't offer the ability yet, but as a company page admin, you'll be able to track. So let's say Turn Left Media would love to be able to track LinkedIn Indaba or Turn Left Media as a hashtag. They can do that on their platform, on their company page admin tool. Engage your people. So the employees are important and most times generate trust, more trust than a logo, than a brand. So how can you make sure they are participating, engaging in conversation with the platform and elevating your brand? So there's a few ways to do that. So you can, of course, reshare company mentions. So when Mario's talk about Turn Left Media as a company page, which some managers can reshare that hashtag. People in the room know Mario's, so it's a much more personalized approach to the brand. Elevate is a paid product. Has anyone heard of it? Oh, excellent. There's a couple of people, 3 people in the room. So Elevate is an employee advocacy tool. Lives on LinkedIn, so it's a licensing of a platform, so SaaS approach to buy your licenses. And what you can do with it is that you can buy licenses for your business. You will have designated curators for the content, and you will share content internally, and in turn, your employees will have a much easier way to share that content not only on LinkedIn, but on Facebook, Twitter, and Weibo in China, because we are in China. So that's a great way for you to elevate the content, but also you have access to what happens to that content. Did the actual post that my employee shared had an impact on the sales later on? We have ways to connect that up through Elevate. And finally, know and grow your audiences. So again, we're here for business. How can we continue to reach people that are relevant to your business? So firstly, refreshed analytics. So knowing your followers, know who's coming to your page, and that will come with a few additional things. CTA. So the CTA in this example is follow, but it could be join now, it could be something else. We will have a set of CTAs for you to choose from. And then content suggestions, which we're very excited about. So currently you can access training content via Turn Left Medium. As a company page admin, you also have the ability to see some of that on your feed. So for instance, you have a set of page followers and you'd like to understand what are they reading, what are they engaging with. So the first steps again to social listening. And you can, on top of that, add in layers of demographics. So you want to know from your followers in Johannesburg, what are they engaging with? And that can in turn give you some ideas of the tone, the voice, the approach of content creation, or to, again, understand your audience even further. So page followers, but you can also go as broad as all LinkedIn followers. Maybe Microsoft to be after understanding the ITDMs in the whole of LinkedIn. What are they engaging with? What content matters the most? And finally, employee posts. What are employees talking about? Not in a sort of like weird, stalkish way, but really to be beneficial to your business. So we're very excited about it. Delivering value, one more. Sponsored messaging. Sponsored email exists. Anyone using it or know of it? Most likely, all of us would have got an email from a recruiter trying to poach you. But brands have started to use it more often than so, because there's no wastage. We only deliver the emails when members are on the platform, and there's a really strong real estate value, because the email leaves on the platform until the member takes action, and you have a 45 days frequency cap. So if IBM reaches a bunch of ITDMs for 45 days, Microsoft, Amazon Web Services, Cloud, none of them will be able to talk to the same audience. So it's quite a powerful way to engage in a personalized, direct manner. And in addition to that, our teams are thinking of new messaging formats, because the way we communicate has changed. So we all have our phones, we all have some sort of messaging app. And in work, at Microsoft, we have Teams, we have Skype, we have Slack if you work with product. So there's a lot of messaging systems, because we want information now. We don't want to send an email, we have to wait. Or I don't want to receive a call. Every missed call that I ever get, I never return. My voicemail is probably like, it reaches its limit. So if you ever work with me, Turn Left Media, never leave me one. Yes, some generations, I'd like to call them modern generation rather than X, millennials, or whatever you have as a definition. They are much more inclined to leverage and utilize messaging. But beyond that, there's data to back it up. It's not just the way I use it or the way most of us use it. But actually, according to Business Insider, the top 4 chat apps host more than 3 billion monthly active users globally. So the likes of Messenger, WhatsApp, WeChat, and Line. And the actual heading for that graph says that they have surpassed social networks. So LinkedIn has to adapt, and so do all the social networks business, they have done so. So you would have noticed changes on the messaging app. So we are using predictive marketing to help us to evolve. So of course, we have new rich media features such as marked replies. So kind of the system is learning what the conversation is talking about, and then spilling out ways for you to engage in a quick manner. So thumbs up, what about you? So there's some of the scenarios there, but your own personalized messaging will be different. And GIFs, I love the GIFs. And yes, if you do, don't call me, but do message me and you get a GIF. Hope you're one back. So we understand that we are humans after all. Of course, we're not going to have the cat videos that usually we tell people not to put on LinkedIn. But if you put a cat picture and that cat is relevant to your business or to what you do, you're being human after all. And we engage with creative visuals, let's say. But what does that mean for you guys in the room? So again, bring some external stats that we've found. So this is the 2017 B2B Buyers Survey report. And 91% of respondents of B2B buyers, basically that's the ecosystem, they said they do not want long registration forms. I'm not going to give my information away. In the UK, if you ask for the postcode, you're going to have a very low completion rate. In the US, it might be a little bit different, but in the UK, we have found out that people do not want to be located by GPS. Yeah. Here too. And 72% are increasingly demanding timeline. They want to know, and they want to know it now. We know that WhatsApp has launched a business API, so we know the importance of messaging and the way we communicate in agile ways to people, to our business consumers. So the first changes that LinkedIn is taking, we're actually live right now with a very small amount of clients and testing to learn, because there's a lot for us to learn. We are in a privileged position that we are owned by Microsoft and they're doing brilliant things with artificial intelligence, things that are actually changing and helping humanity, but they also can have an effect in marketing. Not as meaningful, but I'm sure it's important for all of us in the room. So sponsored messaging, or sponsored messages, that might change. We're doing a little work internally to find out what the best name. In Cape Town, somebody suggested e-messaging, or e-message, so if you have any ideas, let us know. So let's see, on your inbox, the same way you receive an email, you receive a sponsored message. And in this case, FixDex brand is reaching out to an audience. It landed on Sam's inbox, and they have a summit, and they want Sam to attend. That's the idea. But they give Sam the option, because you want to make sure that Sam is the right audience for this event. Firstly, view event details. So that's the ability to take some out of LinkedIn onto a landing page. On that landing page, there will be information about that summit. Maybe Sam is ready to register. So in that case, KicksX will most likely leverage LinkedIn generation form. So the ability to capture Sam's information, which will go through a database, and we know that Sam's attended the event. Or Sam is not target audience, or he's busy, he can't go. He'll say no, thank you. This is the first iteration. With any product release, we make changes, we adapt, we learn. We're going through feedback sessions with clients, and the main asks are possibilities to add a rep. So contact Sam to a sales rep. Those are things we're testing. Possibility to test bot systems to then qualify things a little bit more. So all of that is being tested. This will change and will evolve. And I am hoping that actually becomes easily for you guys to have reps or sales to integrate with that messaging, because that's when things will actually start to change and make the whole alignment much, much easier. I'm excited about this product. Is anyone excited about it too, or see some user cases? Excellent. And this is what I had for you. I'm not entirely sure whether we still have time, but this is pretty much what I would like to share with you today. If you'd like to stay in touch, or just bookmark our product releases, it's looking back, so it's I can never say that word. Can anyone say retrospectively? No, what I mean. Ask about English teacher?
Still learning after.
I always give it a try to see, am I improving myself with that words. And I should just give it out and say, looking back, maybe too fast. So the latest one was, of course, DoubleClick. So this was Ad Manager on first-party impression tracking. So that's where you would go to find out more and understand how to implement your tags, best practice to avoid any conflicts with tagging those impressions, etc. Or equally, if maybe you're a marketer and you have lovely turn left media to do all of the work with the campaign management, then you might be more interested in strategy, art of winning, or sales and marketing alignment. LinkedIn has access to data, so a lot of times we research our own members. We did a lot of research recently interviewing people working in marketing to understand what are the challenges they face. and attribution, measurement came out on top. So we have got all of that to share with you on that blog. So again, highly recommend you take a look. Again, bookmark. But yes, 14 hours later, we arrived in Stellenbosch. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you so much, Laura. I just wish you had a little bit more enthusiasm and passion when you talk about it. It looks like the questions are rolling out big time, so I'll get into them. But it is quite amazing just putting the two together. Anthony's piece about connectivity and the networks out there, and then seeing what LinkedIn are doing to produce products. I mean, I know in this space, in the tech space, this is what you have to do. Out of interest, how many engineers are sitting in Mountain View right now, building new products for LinkedIn? Is that a question for you or Anthony?
Is that a rhetorical question? Oh, Anthony will take that.
I won't answer the number because we don't publicize that, but I will tell you it's not just Mountain View, it's Sunnyvale, and now New York. We have an engineering team. We're looking at an engineering team in Brazil, the former home. So we're an engineering company, right, that happens to have marketing products.
So when we tie the two together and we think about this connectivity and these networks out there, there's a lot of products available at play to kind of connect with people out there, the industry. Obviously LinkedIn as a network is more of a professional network, and the mindset that's going on there is obviously more of a professional one. There's an investment and investing time aspect when you use it. So I'm going to get into the questions because there's quite a few. Just have to switch this on. First question from Anonymous, and as South Africans there will be a lot of Anonymous. Some API platforms like HubSpot no longer allow marketers to share content into LinkedIn groups. How can we use groups more effectively, especially locally?
Right, that's a very specific question. So HubSpot is integrated LinkedIn from an organic standpoint. We're actually launching the paid offering later on in the year or early next year, so it's good news. So you'll be able to do your paid activities via HubSpot eventually. So groups went through a sort of facelift. They completely changed. So there will be some learnings, and the API also needs to update in the back end. So if there's questions such as this, I highly recommend you to submit to your HubSpot rep. They work closely with LinkedIn teams, and they work closely to the API engineers who make things happen. So this is a clear feedback that needs to be taken to the right people, and I highly recommend you do so. I haven't got the answer on what's happening exactly on the roadmap for that HubSpot integration, but yes, it's a valid point, and if you see that you were able to do something and you were not able to do it anymore, I've spoken to a few people that do use HubSpot, or Sprout, sorry, and they did exactly that. They spoke to the rep, the Sprout rep, and asked the question, and they found out that that would change in 6 months. So just do that with your reps at the technology platform, and they can reach out to the right people at LinkedIn.
How do we get access to early product releases, like in messages or whatever we're going to call it? I know that the certain left, obviously we can kind of put that forward.
Good question. We are a members first platform, so we're very careful the way we take a new product to the market. And usually, this is not things that we talk about externally, but we have an alpha phase before we even go to beta. And it happens with a very few selected clients. They're willing to take large risks. And most of the times might happen, closer to where the product teams and the engineers sit for that product. So it's not open to the public, unfortunately. There's some products, once we get closer to launch, we are able to kind of add you guys in, and Turn Left Media can give you some guidance. So I would say go to Turn Left Media for your market, for your continent, to find out whether that product is being tested a little bit more broadly. So I talked about Campaign Manager changing. We actually at 3% rollout. So some of you in the room have already told me, oh my God, I saw it changed and I didn't know what happened. Did I press the wrong button? But yes, some of you would already be experiencing that sort of beta phase or tests that we do from a product standpoint. But yeah, sorry, it's not a kind of a yes or no answer, but Turn Left to be in a good position to say whether we can or can't.
I'm going to keep rolling them because I know people are desperate for coffee, but we've got to answer these critical questions. How does LI plan to address, this is not from Anonymous, this is from Anthony, but it's not that Anthony, I don't think.
Anthony, you're trying to trick me here.
How does LI plan to address the inevitable noise problem as more and more people connect? The inevitable comparison is Facebook, which is almost unusable now.
I'm going to call out Marius. He's a fantastic at giving these answers.
Yeah, so I think whenever we talk to people about using the platform, I always say you have to be very judicious about the people that you accept in your network. Because theoretically, the primary value that we get out of the LinkedIn is through the newsfeed. So the more people you accept in, the faster the data is going to flow through the feed, and the more you're likely to see. So if you just go and accept every single connection, you're probably letting in some poor quality. So personally, make sure that the people you accept in are people that are going to add value to your conversation. And I think the big difference between LinkedIn and some of the other social platforms is there's a big sense of self-regulation. So generally when there was a time about a year ago, it was pineapple plus pineapple equals 5, and then pineapple plus toast is 20, and then work out the formula. And it was a big thing on other social platforms, and it started happening on LinkedIn. And you could see people commenting and saying, it's not the right place. And John and I always have this debate about, is LinkedIn a serious platform? Is it a professional platform? So there is space every now and then, like a cat photo, but in general, you keep it a little bit more professional, and generally people will allow the content into the feed.
Okay, just actually leading on from that, there's a question about a few tips for people who may have a relatively small network, but a big idea. Any suggestions how you should reach out to your network effectively?
Yes, first of all, start by maximizing your profile and presence. So make sure that you have a stellar profile. We've got tips on how that's done. I can happily share that. You can see me at the end. 120 is a start of something. So you can start to post and engage, and if somebody in your network likes it, you'll most likely appear on their feed, and it'll be seen by other people as well. But something that I haven't talked about, and probably as a homework for some of you, is called Sales Navigator, which is a much more, so what we do in Marketing Solutions is marketing. It's reach the right audience at scale. Sales Navigator is social selling. So let's say you've got 120 people. Those 120 people know each one of them, 120 people more. So you want to reach out to those second, third degree connections. You can do that utilizing LinkedIn, but you need to have the license for LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And LinkedIn Sales Navigator will integrate to Campaign Manager, because again, sales and marketing needs to work together more efficiently. So for those guys in the room who have 120 connections, they're freelancers, they're small businesses, maybe Sales Navigator will be a good way for you to start getting traction. And eventually, when you are a sort of medium business or a small to medium business, you can then approach the marketing solutions and reach a scale and invest budgets and work with us. I hope that kind of helped.
Yeah, I think it's good, a good one. Anthony, can you answer the next one, please? And I know you can't release too many stats, but what is the global split in ad support for B2B versus B2C? And is LinkedIn really more a B2B channel than B2C?
Traveled a long way, John.
Okay, can you rather answer what is the average rainfall in the Amazon basin?
I might be more equipped to answer that one, actually. So there's two questions in there. The split between B2B and B2C. Listen, primarily, LinkedIn's value to marketers is around a B2B experience. It's kind of who we are as a platform. We do, and particularly in our regions, actually pioneer this more than anywhere else, what we call high consideration value. Yeah, HCV. I can't quite get that acronym in my head. Where it's a high consideration purchase, something because business professionals buy things and are thoughtful about their purchases. But it's not the sort of place where you're going to see, run-of-the-mill travel ads. It's just there's no value in that for our members. There's probably very little value in that for our marketers as well. If you want to find an unbelievably great safari destination, and you have to think about that, I think that's something in our regions that makes more sense for LinkedIn. What was the second part of that question, John?
No, I think you've answered it because it was more about
Letting me off the
is
hook.
LinkedIn more a B2B channel and I think you've answered that. So,
Yeah, it's all context. You want to find people in context in marketing generally, and think of the context of LinkedIn, and it answers the question.
I'm going to do one more. There's quite a few more, but I think one more question. Maybe it doesn't have to be you, Anthony. Don't worry. What is LinkedIn doing from being kept on being called a social platform? How do you keep it a professional platform? That's what makes LinkedIn unique. So maybe it is yours, because maybe you could talk about LinkedIn being a member-first environment. Just leading you on there.
It's a good question, and it's something that we wrestle with a lot, because there's listen, we are a for-profit enterprise, and an easy way to profit is to increase scale, and that means you might want to decrease quality. But that isn't really why we're here. That isn't from Jeff on down, from Reed, the founder, on to all of us now. We're very focused on making sure that member experience is first and foremost. The only reason I came to work at LinkedIn is because that is sacred. I'm uninterested in flogging products just for any particular reason. I'm really interested in connecting people together. It's been something I've been working on a very long time, and I think LinkedIn is the embodiment of that in a business case in the best possible way. And we set aside a lot of short-term gain, and I will tell you, as someone who's got a revenue number, or as someone who's on the sales side of our business, it hurts sometimes. But doing the right things for our members and our marketers, when you focus on that, the answers to all those other questions become real easy. But it is, we constantly do it. The members police themselves. I will tell you, Jeff himself responds to members in the feed. We do get notes quite a bit, like, hey, why is this running? Because I also run the programmatic businesses globally, and so programmatic ads can sometimes maybe not be relevant to mine. And so it's a hyper focus on that. And we have entire groups and departments in LinkedIn, some of whom we're not even allowed to interact with because their job is to police it with an objective mindset. So I think I don't see a whole lot of risk for LinkedIn becoming disintermediated or diluted, is probably a better word, from a member standpoint anytime soon.
Great, I think we'll call it there. Just turn left, representatives around the room, just raise your hands so that people know who to go to ask questions, as well as LinkedIn representatives themselves, please. Thank you. But please come and ask us questions. We're going to have a coffee break now. Just out of interest, part of the deal here is that we can get one cappuccino. So you better flog in there and get your cappuccino from the main desk. It's great. Cappuccino. But I suppose all of us at once might cause problems. Don't go away, folks. There's some lucky draws straight after the break, and then we get into the South African data. Hope you're enjoying yourself so far.
Oh yes.
Right. Sorry folks, we'll be back in, I think, about 15-20 minutes max. Okay.
Marketing report. Yeah, no, exactly. Because I'm not